entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals who seek excellence, bringing the business classroom to you. It's the Business Builders Show. Here's Marty Wolf.
We still got a long way to go. Yes, we all got a long way to go.
Welcome to the Business Builders Show with Marty Wolf. And a special welcome to my guest host, J. Kelly Hoey. Along with Kelly and our executive producer, DC Taylor, we will be your guides on this learning journey. J. Kelly Hoey and I want to enthusiastically share stories and information to inspire leaders. And we are all leaders at some point, so you can then inspire others. You can find out more about J. Kelly Hoey at jkellyhoey.co. That's jkellyhoey.co. And you can find Kelly on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. The Business Builders Show is distributed by C-Suite Radio. You can find the Business Builders Show and many other fine shows on C-Suite Radio. That's at www.c-suiteradio.com.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.
Okay, Kelly, let's get going.
Hey, this is Kelly Hoey, guest host of the Business Builders Show, and I am absolutely thrilled to be interviewing my friend Maxie McCoy, writer, speaker, like me, obsessed with giving women the tools they need to believe in themselves. She's the author of You're Not Lost. Maxie, thank you for coming on the Business Builders Show.
I'm so thrilled to be here, Kelly. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about you a little before we dive into the book. And I know your story, but I'd like you to lay it out for others. Let's talk about the path and career choices that got you where you are today.
How much time do we have exactly? It has been a wild ride, but I think the thing that, continues to pop up is just how not linear it was. I started my career in sports broadcasting. I then moved into women's leadership as that became really where my heart was pulling me towards. And I had the great gift of being able to be on the road for about 4+ years, specifically talking to women, building out global communities. And while I did that, I was like, shoot, I've always loved to write. Why am I not capturing all of this magic that's happening on the ground? And so I started blogging, and then that blogging, turned into a lot of people asking for more. One of the things they were asking for was a book. And then I made the decision, okay, I think a book is in my future. I've always dreamed of this, but I think I'm ready because there's a clear message and a clear question that I want to answer. And I thought, I'll just go write a book. And then I learned much, much harder than that. And, for me, it was a couple years of, between the time that I was introduced originally to some agents, one of whom became my agent, Kelly, that you and I both share. And, she and others were very honest with me that I had a lot of work to do in terms of building up platform. I had this core message. I knew what I was about. I had started to build a platform, but there was a lot of work I needed to do before I could play with the big dogs. And so I spent, over a year trying to do all of that in terms of growth. And then, we continued to work and we got me a book deal and my book came out in August. So we are here.
It's like awesome. And one of the things I love is what I hear you saying is, the whole idea, the thing we hear people say is, hey, follow your passion. Well, you know what, if you're not prepared to follow that with, a shovel and a pitchfork to do the work, then, where's it going to get you? And you had a passion to get a message to women, but you were also prepared to put in a heck of a lot of work.
Yeah, I was. I'm a worker at heart. But, Kelly, I think the other thing around what you're saying, to follow your passion, honestly, sometimes I think it can be BS because all of us are smart. All of us work really hard. If it was as easy as following your passion, I think we'd all already be doing it. So, the bigger questions that I think are there is how can you use doing the work, like what you're talking about, of just putting in the work and trusting that when it's aligned with what lights you up, that it's going to get somewhere. But, we all get really obsessed with it being the end all be all.
Exactly. And I'm going to say, in your path from when you decided, to exit the world of sports broadcasting and really focus on your interest in lifting up other women. I mean, that's been what, like a 7-year?
Yeah, it's been 7+ years. And do you want to know how it happened? It happened because I was like, oh my gosh, I am so miserable in this world. I don't want to end up in Bristol, Connecticut, so I made another jump. And then eventually I was like, shoot, I don't know. I am so lost. I have no idea what to do. So I'm just going to sign up for a writing class and write about the things that interest me most. And in that writing class, I met the founders of the company, that were the rocket ship in this career of women's leadership. But it was all from a choice to essentially pursue a hobby.
I love that. People wonder, like, how do you get things started? And sometimes, we can maybe snicker about journaling or, vision boards, but some of that stuff, like, it just does uncrack. I think my own outline for my own book was, because I want to say years of blogging and having bits and pieces of, myself and little notes left everywhere, and went, oh, right, there's something here. It
all comes together eventually, doesn't it? But I think, what stops us is thinking that it's all supposed to be together before we begin. And I think that's one of the big, fallacies of being able to find the work and do the work is thinking that the plan's already there, before you start stepping. And in my opinion, the path unfolds when you begin.
Yeah. You might see the destination, and you got to step off the start. Yeah, I'm gonna say the starting square, and just do the work and see where see how it gets you to what your end result is. Yeah. Now, all right, Maxie. So we're conducting this Business Builder Show interview in February.
Yes.
Now this is well past the expiration date for New Year's resolutions for those who make them.
Gosh darn it!
Oh gosh, again, I have failed to make resolutions that I have failed to keep. Yeah. But you've addressed this about keeping New Year's resolutions. So now that we have, 10 and a half months left to accomplish something this year, let's talk about your 4 questions for end of month reflection.
Yeah, I think end of month can be so important or just reflection in general, right? We get so obsessed on where we're going that it's like, wait, if I would just take a second to turn around, so many of the answers to where I want to be in the future or in the steps of where I've already been. So, questions like these are so important to me and important to me to communicate, because I think when we feel like our wheels are spinning, all we have to do is just take 5 minutes to ask ourselves some things. So, 4 that I've written that are specifically around end of month are asking, just what your happiest memory was, the thing that brought you the most joy, I think can be really enlightening to where you're driving energy and what actually matters. The second one is, what is the one lesson I learned and who was my teacher? Because, those lessons month to month, I think we'd all agree January felt kind of long. So there might have been more than one lesson, but those really tend to add up. And then, what stress or concern worked itself out? I really love that question, because I think when we can look back and know, okay, this worked itself out, whatever you're currently facing, you'll remind yourself that this actually is going to relieve itself as well. And then the last one is, what areas of my life did I make the most progress? And conversely, the least progress, and just really looking at what mountains were we able to move in a month, and taking inventory of that really does build up your ability to do more.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the idea of like things working themselves out, because we can expend so much energy festering over something.
Yeah, right. It's like that meme, you've made it through 100% of your worst days. And that, I think is really important to come back to anytime we're feeling the anxiety, the stress, the fear of making big things happen,
Well, I'm going to say it's sort of back to our discussion on passion. We've got this sort of fixation on moving quickly and failing fast and all this kind of stuff. And sometimes we just need to, I want to say, insert a pause and stillness so that we can actually see what's going on.
Yeah. Good things take time, right? And it's, I think about that in the context of my journey with my book. I have so many people who reach out and like, oh my gosh, look at how much you've done since we last talked. I'm like, no, this was a choice every day for 3+ years in order to see this through. And it just looks like it on social media. It looks like it was fast, like it was quick, like it would, this thing just kind of happened. And man, sometimes I thought it would kill me.
I like to jokingly say, being, in my own case, being that overnight success at 53. Like, can we look at all the failed careers and starts that
talk
happened?
About that? Yes. Yes. Which is why I'm obsessed with your story, and you are a constant inspiration, always have been. Like, we are not a failure if we don't make some effing list by the time we're 30.
Oh, exactly. I say that's one of those things that you talk about, and that sort of that obsession. For someone who was older, those lists, they drive me nuts, and it reflects on my own career as an attorney and thinking things weren't happening fast enough in my 20s. But what's it like for a millennial to see those lists? How does that affect you?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting you bring that up from your perspective, because I think it affects everyone, right? It affects every generation, and what I think is absurd is that you have all these young people who truly believe and are pushing themselves, are burning themselves out for the glory of these lists. And I don't personally feel like I'm being dramatic in saying that. Like, it really causes a lot of swirl and a lot of pressure. And, I think that it really prevents you from experimenting, from trying things, from letting things go that aren't working, because you're so obsessed with this path that is supposed to get you to success that you don't realize, in the case of your career and most people's careers who are successful, they are successful because they were willing to take a chance to try something new, to let something go. And that can happen at any age. And I think we can make ourselves miserable when we feel just completely obsessed with committing to something that's no longer serving us. And there's a lot that no longer serves us when you decided what you wanted to do at 22.
Well, I would say, and for those who are, maybe just tuning in, or if they've forgotten, I'm talking to Maxie McCoy, author of You're Not Lost. This conversation we're having right now on the number under some age list is at page 78. So if you've got Maxie's book in front of you, flip it to page 78. This is where you'll find all of this. And I'm going to say, Maxie, I got 2 more to add to your list. I know you had, Vera Wang and
Ava DuVernay, my favorite.
Like so many, but add Lucille Ball to the list. For older listeners, and Helen Gurley Brown. I mean, when we interviewed our mutual friend Kate White of Cosmo. Love her on this show, and Helen Gurley Brown. I mean, think of what did she have, and 25 jobs before she landed as editor at Cosmo. So,
right. And I think that's so powerful, because it reminds you that you can pursue what is lighting you up at any given time. It doesn't have to be when you're 25 or 35. It really, there's so many chapters to our lives. And I think that can bring a lot of peace as we, live in this world that is constantly comparing.
And I love that chapters, because all of us are going to have interesting and long careers. The way aging in the world is going. Maxie, I want to make sure everyone knows where to find you. Where are the best places for people to find your current conversations?
Yeah, I think the place that I'm giving the most value to people, which is always my goal, is on Instagram at Maxie McCoy. And then on my website, maxiemccoy.com, I create weekly writings, long form blog posts, and I really engage with people there. Lots of worksheets, lots of fun. So
that's fantastic. Thank you. And your book, You're Not Lost, pretty much can find it everywhere.
Pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, one of the things I love in your book, you like me, are a fan of micro actions, as is one of our other past guests on this show, Tom Peters. Talk about why you're I love Tom. Why you're a fan of micro actions.
Yeah, I think in the context of, this group of people and who I'm consistently talking to and this idea of feeling lost, what happens is you might have a feeling of where you want to be, but you're like, oh, I'm so far from there. Or you're like, I have no idea where I even want to be. So therefore, what am I supposed to do now? And I think micro actions can solve both of those problems, which are the two problems that lead us into feeling lost. And, in the context of micro actions, it makes anything possible. We just don't give small steps and small actions enough merit and enough weight. And, when I think about my own journey of sports broadcasting, wasn't it? I knew I had the passion for women's leadership and writing and speaking, but I had no idea where that would end up or how to write a book. The absolute smallest thing that I could do and did do, because it was the only thing I knew to do, was to sign up for a writing class. That decision changed my life, truly. And, I think we don't give any merit there, but those are the small things that over and over and over again build up to the work and the alignment and the energy that you've always wanted. And so the question that I am constantly asking myself and encouraging others who are feeling stuck or lost or unsure is just, what's the absolute smallest thing that I can do here? And the smallest thing around something that lights me up, something that energizes me, something that inspires me. What's the absolute smallest thing I can do? And do that today and tomorrow and the next, 10,000 days. And small things build.
Can I
next
jump
thing you know,
in?
you've got a book and a book deal. Oh,
Kelly, I am wide awake.
Grateful. Marty's chiming in.
Hi, Marty.
Hi.
Talk to me.
I just want to make a comment. I, in fact, read the book. Great job.
Thank you.
Love the idea of small steps. I just, that really hit home. And as I was reading it, as I'm reflecting on that now, well, they don't want to take I guess people don't want to take small steps because they're in such a hurry to hit that big goal. They're in such a hurry to make those lists that they just, they have their head down, are not looking up for all those opportunities and to take those small steps and to just kind of keep moving forward. It takes time and effort.
It does. And I know that you know this in your career, Kelly. I know that you know this in your career. All of the success and the magic that you've created, I'm sure you can look back and say, oh, wow, I'm so glad I made that tiny decision, that decision to start blogging, that decision to start the podcast, that, probably came down to buying a URL, right? Like a one small thing that just, that continued to build. And it's the truth of any successful person like both of you who has done that. It's just, you were willing to put in the work and let it be small for a little bit.
I say we just cling to that notion of overnight success.
I know.
As like we cling to, the solo journey, which, is something else I wanted to talk to you about, and again, I'm going to say, let me refer to the book. Marty, you've got your copy there. You can flip ahead to page 89. You talk about members of your girl gang, Jacqueline and Carly, and I hear so many stories about people who have, made it the hard way, clawing tooth and nail to get where they are, and then refuse to give back. Unfortunately, I hear that a lot with women, and a lot of kneecapping and backstabbing. Do you believe it's different for your generation?
I do. I think we are fortunate to have the path forged by so many women who, there was one spot at the boardroom table. There was one office in the executive suites for them, right? And so a bit of that competition just came as a byproduct of the world had not changed yet. There was so fewer spots for them. And so, while I do think that there's very real generational differences in terms of competition versus collaboration, what I am experiencing within this kind of millennial subset and beyond is a knowledge and a notion that we are better together. And, collaboration really does, lift all boats in the harbor. And, what I do know and what I do believe in the context of, building that girl gang and building that squad that becomes very important is to not always look so far ahead of you with the, cool, huge, successful people that like, oh, I want to be besties or mentors or whatever with them, and really just looking around and seeing how much can happen within a peer set, right? There's a lot to learn there because, Kelly, as I'm sure you've experienced in your career, 10 years ago, nobody knew who some of you were. And now you're all together crushing life and, really, really on top of your game. And it's just, it's being willing to build those sincere and those authentic relationships outside of how many Instagram followers someone has. Like, that doesn't mean that they're going to be valuable or not to you.
I love that. And I do. I truly believe there is something different with your generation in terms of the support. And maybe it is the absence of that scarcity mentality. Like, your success does not take away from somebody else's success. And I think that's a sort of a sword we've been hanging under. Which is kind of sad.
And, it's all generalizations, right? Because, you're a perfect example of someone who's always been not only so giving to the women around you, but the women coming behind you. And like women like me have been on the receiving end of, of your wisdom. And I think that we have learned from the good ones, right? To continue to always do that, both in front of us, beside us, and behind us. And it's the only way we're gonna change the status quo. So I think we've all realized we don't really have an option.
Well, and I credit my attitude towards mentoring and other people to, I'm going to say my legal training and being admitted to the bar in the province of Ontario, where there, in essence, is institutional mentoring. And it's a professional responsibility. And that kind of takes you to a different place. Let's remind everybody once again, Maxie, where they can find your book, which is called You're Not Lost.
Yeah, it's called You're Not Lost. It's, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, most local retailers. It's at a lot of Urban Outfitters also. So if you type in You're Not Lost into Google, you'll find it.
You'll find it. And what you'll find in there is not just a lot of Maxie-isms. There's worksheets and exercises and all sorts of good stuff. So it's not just a passive read.
Yeah, it's not. And I think it's really important as we're trying to figure this stuff out that, we can provide all of the wisdom and, stories and inspiration. But I really do believe that until you start asking yourselves some questions and really making it about you, that's where the shift starts to happen, which is, why it was so important to me to have worksheets and questions. And it's a book that I say that, you get down and dirty with. It's not one that comes, that you finish and it looks like it did at the beginning.
Yeah. And I'm a fan of books like that. I'm a fan of folding pages and writing, putting sticky notes and writing in books and, horrifying librarians. All right. There's a couple other questions I want to ask you, and I'm trying to figure out which order. You know what? Let's go with this because that we were just talking about the girl gang. Any guidance for companies, businesses out there on hiring or working with millennial women?
Yeah, I think what is important to know about this generation is, a couple of things. This gets talked about a lot, but the research continues to show it, just the importance of really being attached to purpose and knowing the bigger why of the work that someone is doing and the collaboration also that's needed within that. And then, I think understanding the landscape with which the future of work is operating in, right? Within the next couple of years, 40% of the workforce will be independent workers. And so, just understanding that a lot of that comes from a drive for flexibility. Millennial women are not young anymore, right? They are having children, they are building their lives. And so understanding how you can retain top talent, but also their expectation of being able to have their families and have flexibility and still be able to contribute. If you miss that, you'll miss the boat.
Maxie, here we go. My last question, and then I'll see if Marty's got anything. Shine, I want you to tell people what the app is, but on Shine, you have a 7 days to starting a side hustle. One of our other Business Builders Show guests, who we talked about before, Kate White, she's talked about her side hustle on the show. Tell us, some tips. I want people to get the Shine app. But Tell us give us a little hint before we get to the Shine app of, for your side hustle.
Yeah, I think everyone should know about Shine. It's done by, two women in my girl gang who are absolutely amazing. But it's essentially a pep talk in your pocket. You get daily motivational texts and content. And then you have things like this 7-day challenge, which is an audio challenge for starting your side hustle, to be able to follow along and really work on, bringing your dream to life. And I think that any time that we're talking about side hustles, and Kate White is an amazing example, and I am an amazing example, right? I was writing and creating for 3+ years before I went and built my own business. And that is the piece that I think that we miss, is we do talk about these overnight successes. We talk about, people who went out and got venture funding and quit their life and started this billion-dollar unicorn. And for the majority of us building small businesses and building things that really matter to us, we don't look like those stories. What we look like are, people who were willing to experiment, who were willing to try things, who were willing to let it all build before you made a big choice, like leaving your job, like going all in, like investing a lot of your own money into it. And I think experimentation with side hustling is, with anything in our lives, is incredibly important, and allowing ourselves to do that without the immediate payoff is going to be, what lets something build from side hustle into your full-time thing is the consistent, again, small actions, experimentation, so that you can see what you feel like in those roles, in that work. What we say we want to do versus how we actually feel in it can sometimes be different.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Marty, do you have anything else for Maxie today?
Talk to me, Marty.
I want to repeat the title of the book, You're Not Lost. And the subtitle, I think, is very important. It connects to everything that you've talked about. An inspired action plan for finding your own way. And I think that's an important part of your book and the story that we've talked about today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, Maxie, thank you. And yes, we are so batshit grateful that you have been here. One more time, tell everyone where they can find you on Instagram and where your website is.
Yep, it's MaxieMcCoy.com, at Maxie McCoy on Instagram. And the book is anywhere major books are sold.
Thank you so much, Maxie.
Thank you so
Maxie.
much for having me.
Thanks, J. Kelly Hoey, for being our guest host on the Business Builders Show. You can learn more about Kelly at jkellyhoey.co. That's jkellyhoey, HOEY.co. And of course, you can learn more about me, Marty Wolf, and the Business Builders Show at MartyWolfBusinessSolutions.com. That's MartyWolfBusinessSolutions.com. Remember, you can get all our shows and many other great shows at c-suiteradio.com.
Bringing the business classroom to you. It's the Business Builders Show with Marty Wolf.
As a loyal fan of this C-Suite radio show, we've got an unbelievable offer for you. Listeners to the Business Builders Show get 50% off a C-Suite Network membership. The C-Suite Network will help you become the most strategic person in the room. You'll have access to top-notch benefits and networking, all helping you get the most out of your position. Take advantage of this limited-time offer today. Learn more about the C-Suite Network membership at c-suitenetwork.com/CSR. Again, that's 50% off a C-Suite Network membership at c-suitenetwork.com/CSR.